What's going on, everybody? It's your boy DQ here from The Gift is Free, man. This gonna be my first podcast, man. I'm starting these podcasts because it's a lot of stuff that's been on my mind lately, and it's a lot of stuff that I feel like a lot of people want to get off their chest. So we're gonna be doing this probably as frequently as possible. Um, just keep you guys tuned in. In the meanwhile, we're just gonna get started with this one. I kind of started this podcast based off of just sitting around and wondering kind of what my purpose was. Um, the reason why I kind of started this whole brand, this whole The Gift is Free thing, is kind of just trying to develop a sense of my purpose and understand what it is that I want to do with my life. Um, and one thing I just focused on was, like I said, the word purpose. So as I do these podcasts, I think I'm gonna start off with, like, each time we're gonna, talk about these type of things, like what your purpose is in life and certain affirmations that we can get through the day with. So just sit back and relax with me real quick, man, and I hope you guys enjoy it. And this is the Gift is Free podcast. So as I said before, I wanted to kind of talk about purpose. And when you talk about purpose, one thing that goes and coincides with purpose is focus. And one thing about when you're mission based, when you're goal based, you have to have an unshaken level of focus. It's one of the most powerful forces that you can, unlock within yourself if you can really hone in and master the art of focusing. Like I said, it's a powerful force when you cultivate it. So a lot of that has to do with being centered around the word no. To me, focus is all about your ability to understand the right time to say no. Um, Sometimes you can be in situations where you might already be doing too much and giving energy to things that don't really enrich you that much. And you still kind of you still would try to develop the energy and get the goal to try to engage within those things. But sometimes you just really have to sit back and just say no. And the thing about that is, when you can unlock that gift, man, that's something that's going to be able to benefit you in the long run, man. That's going to unlock a level of potential that you may not ever see. So as you go through today, just think about some things that you said no to, or some things that you may need to say no to. For me, it's like, if I have the goals, I have a couple goals that's staying in shape. Like, that's the example, like staying in shape. If I want to make sure I attain that goal, the level of focus that I have to have on saying no to eating foods that aren't really that good for me, or saying no to just sitting around and not going to work out. I just can't do those things. You have to have that level of discipline and level of focus to say no about certain things if you want to attain a certain level of success. So it's going to be a continuous battle of temptation, man. And obviously, you can't tell yourself that you're going to say no to everything, but try to do it as much as possible to kind of get you closer to your goal, man. And that's going to be something that's definitely going to help you in the long run. So laser beam focus, man. Unlock that potential that you got. Show that laser beam focus. That's one thing I have to kind of improve on myself, and everybody can kind of benefit from laser beam focus and really honing in and keeping your skills sharp and really educating and enlightening yourself in all facets, man. You just have to continually focus on your goal at hand and block everything out that doesn't help you in advance. So be intense, be time pressured, you know what I mean? And like I said, man, figure out your purpose, man. Once you figure that purpose out, live through it, breathe it, focus in, lock in, you know what I mean? So that's going to be that. I don't want to harp too long. I don't want to sound like I'm preaching on here, but that's just a little tidbit and a little affirmation that we're going to start with each time. It's going to be different each time. And yeah, man, purpose, focus, purpose and focus. So now that we've got that, I kind of want to start this first podcast, man, with kind of just explaining who I am and where I came from, how I got kind of this idea of doing these podcasts and starting my sports brand. Um, all of those things kind of coincide. So I just kind of want to let you guys know, give you guys kind of the background history of myself, and as to why I wanted to start doing these things. So I'm Dion Queen, son of Jacqueline Grant and Leon Queen, rest in peace. I was born in Annapolis, man. Annapolis, Maryland, man, capital of Maryland. You know, it's a prideful city, man. It's a very, very prideful city. Everything about your attitude and the way you dress and the way you speak, you can kind of tell if you're from around the way. You can kind of tell if you're from Annapolis just right off of the break. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I come from Annapolis, Maryland, and it was the earliest memories that I have. Kind of like, as I said, I was born down there, but as far as the growing up wise, I grew up in Pasadena, but my earliest memories of being in Annapolis were kind of just, riding a big wheel and doing things like that. I lived on Clay Street, Morris Street. We was on Parole Street in town, and we lived at Greenbrier for a little bit. Like I said, man, Annapolis is a small city with a lot of pride, man. It's a lot of things that go on, man. It's not a lot of light that gets put on the city, even though it's the capital. You know, it's funny about that. It's not a lot of light gets put onto Annapolis. The city is pretty small, and a lot of things go on, man. A lot of things go on down the road, and I guess at the time, my mom was kind of developing the sense of just trying to protect us and trying to make sure we was going to be good. So we decided to move to Pasadena, and that's kind of where I grew up at. For real. I always tell people that all the time. A lot of people like to shy away in front about it. Like, I don't have no problem with saying that I'm from Pasadena at all. I'm not one of those guys that be like, yeah, I'm from Annapolis. Nah, I was born down in Annapolis, you know. I got peoples down in Annapolis, but I'm not per se from down there. You're not going to say or get anybody to say they seen me growing up in Annapolis. So I'm from Pasadena, you know, and I'm one of few people that would say that. A lot of people don't even know what it is. A lot of people, when you tell them you're from Pasadena, they'll say California if they're not really accustomed to being from or being around people from Anne Arundel County, let alone Maryland. So, yeah, growing up in Pasadena, man, and kind of when I was coming up, man, my biggest influences, kind of gearing towards the question that I was telling you guys in the beginning to let you know about how I got this started. My beginning, me being young, when I was a young guy, my biggest influences in my life were my brothers. And I say that because, like, I looked at my brothers, man, and my brothers are just like, you know, they was like the coolest guys in the world to me, man. They had a lot of friends. They was always, you know what I mean? They had the good shoes. They was just funny. And they was the biggest influences in my life. So my brothers played sports when I was young. They had VHS tapes around the house, and you know what I mean? They played for the Annapolis All-Stars. And when I was a kid, like, I just always thought that was the greatest team in the world, period. Just because, you know what I mean? My brothers, they played for him, and all his friends played for them, you know what I'm saying? And they was really getting to it. And that's from what I remember. I just would watch the tapes, man, over and over. Just 75-pound length, all of them games that they had on tape, because they were so close, man. All of the parents were so close, man. And we would give the tapes to each other, pass the tapes around. So some would be at our house, some would be at some of their friends' house or whatever. But I would watch them all the time. And I just would brag about my brothers because I thought they was the best. You know what I'm saying? My brother DJ, is just funny, man. He's just a funny guy. He was really into he's really into sports. Like, he likes sports and everything, but DJ just a real chill, down to earth person, you know. Always level-headed. I've never seen DJ flustered at any point of my life, period. Um, that's never been something that I've been exposed to. And even as a kid, I kind of took those qualities from him, and kind of just honed them into my own way. I wouldn't really react to certain things the same way other people may react to them, or uh, I wouldn't want to go out so much because my brother DJ, I mean, he would go out, but it wasn't like that much. I didn't see my brother DJ going out all the time. So, it wasn't a situation where he was just like, you know what I mean, just the super wild guy. He was down to earth, chill, still cool. Um, and he was one of the coolest, like I said, he was one of the coolest people in the world to me, man. And it really put me on when I was young. He really put me on the music from the South. My brother was like, he was really into artists from the South, Master P, True, Outkast, all of them. Was kind of something that I learned from just going in his CD bag and stuff like that. So he played a major influence on my life, man, and I always thank him for that, for real, man. DJ was really into sports, like I said, but they always told me, like, well, not always told me, I always just thought, like, when DJ broke his wrist, he broke his wrist in high school, and after that he started working, and I think he just fell in love with the working and the money more so than just the actual sports. So I think that was kind of something that turned him away from it. But my brother played sports, man. He was very athletic. You know what I mean? He was short. So he was athletic for how short he was, man. And I always say I thank my oldest brother for consistently sticking with me, man, and picking me up from the lake and doing all of those things when he ain't had to come do them, for real. So, I mean, that was my brother DJ. And then you got my brother Damien. My brother Damien, like I said, this is what I'm trying to explain to y'all, man. My brothers are the coolest people in the world to me, man. My brother Damien was so quiet in the house. But when we got outside, man, it's lights, camera, action. You know what I'm saying? It was just, he was the funniest person in the world. Always the life of the party, always had you smiling and laughing. You know what I mean? 1000% energy all the time. You know what I'm saying? And that was something that I really, really admired. He had so many friends, and you know what I'm saying? He thought he had style. Thought he was a model, you feel me? And that's so funny, and not even thought it's gonna be funny when I tell you about it later. He was just cool, man. And then you take it to the sports. My brother Damien played basketball, football. He liked baseball. You know what I'm saying? Keep it 1,000 with you. My brother Damien is probably, out of all three of us, he's easily the most well-rounded athlete in the house. There's no question about it. Played quarterback on the football field, point guard on the basketball court. He wasn't no scrub by no means. He wasn't just doing whatever you wanted to do with him. And that was just something that was like his attitude, period. You're not just doing whatever you want to do, you know what I'm saying? And he's going to play hard, and he's going to play to the best of his ability at all times with a lot of energy. You know what I mean? If we're in the gym, you're going to know he's playing. These are things that I was looking at when I was coming up, and I was just admiring these things. Like I said, man, that he had a fiery attitude. So much so that my mom would always tell a story, like when he was young, he would catch an attitude. He would tell coach to take him out the game when he had an attitude. And those kind of things kind of trickle down. Like I said, because I watched my brothers, I idolized my brothers, and Damien, he was that on the football field, on the basketball. I just felt like nobody could do nothing with him. This is just young me, you know what I'm saying? And it was just a beautiful experience, honestly, as a child growing up with them. I loved it, you know what I'm saying? I loved my brothers, for sure. There's nothing in the world that I would replace that time with at all. Never. They taught me everything. I remember my earliest experience of basketball, and playing basketball. DJ and Damien was at my game. We was living in Pasadena, played for Lake Shore at the time. And my earliest memory of basketball, period, is my brother DJ telling me to go down the court and do the move that Iverson does. And what that meant was you go down the court and you do a big wild crossover. You know what I'm saying? You got mind you, I live in Pasadena. It was probably like 10% black. And especially in that league, I think I might have been the only black kid on the team and maybe in the league. So when I come down and do a super snatch cross, man, they go crazy, man. And that kind of stayed with me for the rest of my life. Like, that's something that I always would want to do. I always want to make my brothers happy and make my brothers proud of how I was doing things. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't have to worry about my mom. Like I said, my mom was always there, always. Like, whenever the game was, whatever the event was, she was in the best of spirits. You know what I'm saying? My mom always was kind of like, you know what I mean? You can do any and everything you want to do, period. It don't matter what it is. If you want to do it, you can do it. And even if you don't want to do it, we're going to make you try to do it, and you're going to try to be the best at it. You know what I mean? We were heavy in the church. My mom had me in the choir. She had me on the dance team. You know what I mean? In school, she had me on FBL, Future Business Leaders of America. I had to do this different stuff, played basketball. She just always was kind of grooming me to be a leader and to be, you know what I mean, a jack of all trades in a sense. The one thing she always wanted to maintain with me is being like an actual leader. Like, when I played basketball, my mom wasn't the type of mom to be frustrated when I wasn't getting the ball every play. Even when I was one of the best players on the team, I remember as a kid, my mom would always, she would always tell me for sure to make sure I got my teammates involved. This is 1000% facts. Like, she was always big on making the right play and making sure that I got everybody good and everybody's fine. And that's kind of how I played for a long time. I played point guard, so I just made sure I dished out. Everybody was good for a while. I didn't even want to shoot the ball because, you know what I mean? I know how to score, but I just was, you know what I mean, trying to make sure I played the game the right way. So that was definitely a good time. And I mean, like I said, I grew up, my father wasn't, my natural father wasn't really around like that at all. As a youngster, I had my stepfather in my life, Robert Grant, who was the toughest son of a gun on this side of the Mississippi. And he was very tough, man. He was very, very tough. He was more so of a, at the time in my eyes, he was more so just a dictator, kind of more so than kind of being a leader to me. He was just, it was iron fists. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? You kind of got to watch you got to watch how you move. You got to watch what you say. You got to watch what you do. You know what I mean? And but at the same time, that energy translated to everything. You know what I mean? When he was on my games or whatever, he was the biggest fan too. That man worked hard. He worked hard to take care of us as we were young. So that's something I would never be able to take away from him. He was a hard-working man. It was just hard to please Robert Grant. Very hard. So, you know, it wasn't like it was a terrible upbringing. Of course, we had some, you know what I mean? We had a little bit of struggles, you know what I mean? Family struggles, whatever it was with. We came up it was a little rough at times, but as a kid, as a child, everything was pretty cool. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't until I got to around, you know what I mean, like middle school and high school when things started changing, you know what I mean? Like I said, in elementary school, I was very, very, very inclined with everyone around me in Pasadena. When we moved up there, I had friends from like every side of Pasadena because I lived on every side of Pasadena. I went to Solly, I went to Jacobsville, I went to High Point in elementary schools. And I mean, during that time, I developed a lot of friends. I had two close friends at the time, my man Anthony Miller and my homeboy Alex John, who was one is a white boy and the other one was a Japanese kid. You know what I'm saying? This was something, that's why I think kind of like nowadays, why I can be so inclusive with a lot of people, because that's kind of how I came up. I came up around a lot of different cultures, and as I grew a little older, I got around my homeboy Corey Earls, my man Jordan Ramos, Puerto Rican, and another white guy. You know what I mean? My Puerto Rican man Jordan, man, I was with Jordan all the time, man. Shout out to the Goya. I loved it. You know what I mean? I loved how the house smelled. We loved everything. So I was abreast to a lot of different cultures and races. So coming up, and it was very cool, man. It was always over my house. I was always over their house. Had a lot of fun playing video games, Pokemon, all that kind of stuff. But one thing I always would maintain is sports. And me and my homeboy Anthony, we would play basketball, football. Anthony was fast. He was a good athlete when we was a kids. And I constantly would compete with him all the time. And that's kind of how me and him got cool, just through sports. And you know what I mean? I played with Lakeshore basketball. I was in the early ages. I played with the AA Raiders, and then I wound up going to the Bucks and playing with my homeboy. But I hadn't really fell in love with sports yet. I was a kid still, you know what I mean? I still had that luxury of being a kid. Like I said, things changed kind of when I got older. So moving forward to like middle school is when I kind of started figuring out things and how I wanted to live, and I really started to understand what was going on around me. So it was like I was starting to see I was getting a little taller and growing a little bit, and you know what I mean? And so sports kind of got involved naturally, and I started thinking about, I'm in sixth grade. You got to think by sixth grade, I've been through a whirlwind of things, because around sixth and seventh grade, we had some issues within our household as far as drugs and things are concerned with my stepdad, and he gracefully was able to bounce back years later. But during that time, it was just rough, man. And you know, my brothers are getting older, so they're kind of in and out a little bit. So I'm kind of on my own going through this with my mom, and things are starting to change. So I kind of had to grow up a little faster. And so by sixth grade, seventh grade, I already started planning out what it was I wanted to do with my life, and started to figure out things like for what they were, and starting to fully understand, starting to fully understand a little bit of what the real world, the taste of the real world was, dealing with going through rough times economically with my family and stuff like that. So it made me kind of hone in on my future and my career, and I just chose to start getting into sports real heavy, man. In sixth grade, about fifth grade summer, going to sixth grade, I met my homeboy, who's now, you know what I mean, still my best friend to this day. I met my man Trey White. We went down I was at Lake Waterford Park in Pasadena, and I would always see this guy. Me and this guy would always see each other, along with my homeboy Robert Burton, who's, you know what I mean, who's still my friend to this day. I think I met Robert first at the lake, but from a sports perspective, once I met my man Trey, it was like that was the person that constantly would always compete with me with anything. You know what I mean? We competed against each other first, and we respected each other's style. He was definitely a big football. I was more so basketball, but at the time he played both, and so, I mean, so did I, and we just competed with everything. And I didn't really have a lot of friends outside of, like I said, I had my two friends on my block, because I didn't live on that side of Pasadena. I lived on the side of Northeast High School. Like, I lived on that side. I wasn't living on what is the Chesapeake zone of Pasadena. I was in the Northeast side, so I had most of my friends was from Northeast. But when I met him, I kind of just gravitated going over there most of the time, and we got tight based off of just playing sports, and we remain locked to this day. But outside of him, I had my man Corey and them from my block, my homeboy Reem, who was still my best friend to this day, who I met when I first moved to Pasadena. Other than that, it was just like, you know what I mean, I'm moving so much. We moving so much at the time. It's like I get so many friends, you know what I mean? I just meet so many people, you know what I mean? And I never really get to have the long-standing relationship with them, but these guys are still remain locked with to this day. But at the time, man, it's sixth grade, like I said, seventh grade. I started thinking about what I wanted to do, and I played football, basketball, but I really knew that at the end of the day, and this is sixth, seventh grade, man, I knew that I was going to be some sort of writer. And in the beginning, like, it was just, you know what I mean, just journalism and things like that. I was really big into history. Around seventh and eighth grade, I was really starting to get into history. And I really wanted to see where I could take it as far as being a writer. And I just found out, like I said, I found out what journalism was. So by seventh grade, I kind of figured out what I wanted to do. And I didn't know for sure what it meant to kind of carry that out at the time. I didn't know the process of it. I just seen, you know what I mean? I seen guys that wrote newspaper articles, you know what I mean? I came up, my brother would read newspaper articles all the time. So I just kind of wanted to be a writer, and that's what I wanted to do from an early age. And it's kind of from going through those experiences and kind of having to figure out what I was going to do with my life, and figured out fast just in case I had to take care of my family, you know what I'm saying, my mom, and that's just the kind of the black thought, you feel me? Every black child wants to take care of their mom, you know what I'm saying? But at the time it was really real, so I thought I was going to have to do it, you know what I mean, whether it was me or my brothers or whatever, because my brother, like, you know what I mean, he went to college and everything. And that's another thing too, like I wanted to say about my brother. Like a lot of people like in certain situations, they'll be like, you know what I mean, because I went to school or whatever, and I didn't have that that's cliche saying like I'm the first one to go to college in my family, whatever. I didn't have that, you know what I mean? And I constantly, and sometimes I think I forgot about it, but once I really sit and I look at it, man, my oldest brother DJ, man, he had a job since he was like 15 years old, man. He had a car as soon as you could get one. You know what I mean? As soon as you could get one, he had one. And he honestly knew, you know what I mean? He said he wanted to go to work. You know, he wasn't really into the school and the college stuff. He wasn't trying to do that. You know what I mean? My brother Damien, like I said, played both sports, was good, and then went to college in Atlanta. You know what I mean? First time I have ever been to Atlanta, it was like the longest drive in the world. I thought Maryland was the world, literally. Like I thought it was just Maryland. We found out I was going to Georgia. I'm like, what is Georgia? What is that? Like, you know what I mean? That's how young I was. It's like 7 years old, I think, 7, 8 years old. But my brother went to college, man. My brother went to college. You know what I mean? He didn't finish college, but I had the luxury of seeing that as a child. So I knew I was going to go to college. You know what I mean? I knew I was going to do that. You know what I'm saying? So by the time I got to high school and the skills and all that kind of started to catch up a little bit, I wasn't really as good at football anymore, but I played the hell out of some basketball. And my ninth grade year, when I went to Chesapeake, I had played for Lakeshore my whole life. So everybody that was at Lakeshore was pretty much going to Chesapeake. When I went to Chesapeake my ninth grade year, I wound up getting like good enough to, you know what I mean, go try out for the varsity team. And I knew in my mind that I was going to make the varsity team, no question. I didn't even feel like, even in ninth grade, I wasn't really that good. But I knew the guards. I knew who was going to be playing on Chesapeake. I knew the guys in the backcourt, and I just felt like they couldn't hang with me like that. Like not the starters. My homeboy KP started. My man Reed started. Anybody after that, man, I just felt like I had a chance. You know what I'm saying? And I had a good ass tryout. I did very good in the tryout. The first day, I was gonna go to the JV trial. The coach told me to go to the varsity trial, so I had to stay a little longer. Went to the varsity trial, had a good ass tryout. Next day, I come back to the next one. Coach came up to me talking to me like, I don't know if it was Sisson that came and told me that, but he came up to me and was like, yo, you know you're ineligible. I was like, what is ineligible? What is that? So right then and there, that tells you like my level of understanding as to how this thing goes. Like I didn't really understand what eligibility was. I didn't know exactly. I like I said, I wasn't really even concerned with that type of stuff. Like, you know what I'm saying? I just thought I could do whatever I needed to do, just play the sports, whatever, and everything else would take care of itself. When he said I was ineligible, I'm like, I don't even know what that is. He's like, man, you got to get your grades up. Man, that ain't nothing. Man, he told me I had to get my grades up, but that mean I couldn't play for like a certain amount of games. I'm like, man, this is crazy. So it kind of messed me up a little bit. I was broken down for a while about it. Like, and I still had a little grace period. But in that time, like I said, it broke me down. It showed me literally that at any point this can be taken away from you, and what are you gonna do? You know what I'm saying? You don't have nothing to fill your time, but you're gonna wind up getting yourself in trouble out here. Like this is ninth grade. You kind of becoming a teenager that's kind of trying to figure itself out. And you know what I mean? Luckily for me, I had a strong support system, like with my mom and my family that wouldn't let me fail, you know what I'm saying? And they gave us like a little grace period to get our grades up or whatever. And I had went through the whole process. I'm still not really taking it seriously like that. And I wound up getting my grades up in the time period, the time slot. And my mom still withheld me from playing for the rest of the season. And they was playing, I'll never forget it. That day, that specific day when I got the grades back, I just remember seeing it, being happy, walking down the hallway, getting ready to go to Glen Burnie. They played Glen Burnie that day. My mom was like, yeah, we still not gonna let you play. I cried from Chesapeake High School all the way to Marley Station Mall, yo. Cried, hot. Like, man, this is crazy. But it was something that taught me a major lesson, man. It taught me a major lesson, man. And I got back in the books after that, man. I think I had a 3.6 for like the next two not semesters, but next two marking periods. And that next year I came in, man, and I was good on my grades because I was just so scared of losing the game. But that really taught me a lot, man. It taught me a lot about life and taught me a lot about myself. So I definitely am thankful for going through that situation. I thank my mom for putting me through that situation and really making me learn and understand the severity of taking your grades and stuff seriously. She tried her best to make sure I did what I needed to do in the classroom at all times, and I always thank her for that. Moving past that, 10th grade comes, and I mean, at the time I'm in high school, it's probably the roughest point as far as at home and personally. We had dealt with a lot of situations, man, throughout my high school time. And like I said, I had talked about journalism before, and going through these times, like I said, man, and going in 10th and 11th grade, man, my brother got locked up in that time. And it was very rough, man. It was rough on us for real, man, because we were so close. For my brother to get locked up, it was definitely rough. But one thing, like I say, man, like you remember certain things that kind of gear you and you kind of learn from. One thing I always know, when we went to visit my brother, it was very real. Like when I went to go visit my brother. And one thing he told me, he said, man, whatever it is you do, just make sure you stay focused and you don't wind up doing this and coming in here. And when he told me that, like I said, it didn't really hit me until I seen my brother behind the glass. When I seen that, man, it kind of just tore me up, and I just put the phone down. I just walked away from the glass, and I didn't even want to go back and talk. So I was just so hurt, man. I was just broken down, man. It was very rough. But that shit really fueled me, man, because I'm telling you, in 11th grade, man, I started working in all facets of my life. Like, I got to make sure I'm good to take care of this family, man, period. I don't care what it is. I'm doing what I got to do. I started going hard in the gym, started going hard in the classroom, started kind of developing my sense of individuality and started to figure out who I was. And I knew what it was that I wanted to do. I knew I was going to go to college to play basketball, and I was going to be a journalist when I was done. And that was just that. I had to set in my mind, this is when that goal came. And at the time, it was just more so imperative that I made sure I took care of home and constantly made sure my mom was cool, because it was very rough, man. You got to understand, this is, you know what I mean? At the time, she's partially pretty much a single mom because it was so rough. Going through that experience with my stepdad, and then he was going through my brother was going through what he was going through. So she just was it was very tough for her, and we just had to be there for her. So I just did whatever I could to make my mom proud at all times and make my brother the proudest, man. I remember one time, like I said, and there's certain things you just don't forget, man. We playing against Glen Burnie High School. My brother's locked up. I call my brother after every single game, mostly every practice. We talk all the time, every day. Not every day, but every time I had a game or anything, I would call him, or he would call right after the game or whatever. Play Glen Burnie, go to Chesapeake. Like I said, doesn't mean I come down, I play guard. I'm 6 feet, 130 pounds, soaking wet. Came down, got a steal, fast break, went up and banged that joint. You know what I mean? I could not wait for my brother to call me. And so I could tell him, you know what I'm saying? By the time my brother called me, he telling me about it. And I was just like, wow, man, this is something and stuff like that, man. It didn't really matter. The dunk didn't matter. I didn't even react off the dunk because I didn't have the joy to kind of do so. Anybody that was there could tell you that. You know what I mean? When I dunked the ball, the whole gym went crazy. I didn't react at all, partially because we was getting our ass whipped, but more so because it was like a bigger thing on my mind. Like, man, my brother missed this shit. And I think until this day, I don't think my brother seen me dunk in real life. But I'm not sure. But when I got to call him and say that, it was something that made me so happy, man. My other brother was there, man, and it was just a beautiful time, man. And like I said, it was my brothers was the biggest thing in the world to me. So to make them happy was, I was cool. That was like giving me $1 million. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like the origins of how I kind of got to this point of wanting to be a journalist. Of course, went to college and I went through a lot of different things in college, and I'm gonna talk about that in a separate episode. But that's kind of the groundwork as to why I wanted to be a journalist. Because when I was put in these certain situations, when the game of basketball was taken away from me, when I wasn't around it, I wanted to be able to have something to lock in on. And I'm very interested and I love the game of basketball. And I have since I was young, and since that time, it was something that kind of drove me. Like, I knew I was going to play basketball to get myself to college. I knew these things were apparent and I had to get these things done. And like I said, I went through some things in college I'm going to talk about in another episode, but that's kind of the gist as to why and where I came from. As far as the making up of me trying to be a journalist. I thank God. I'm thankful for those times because, man, they really groomed me for who I am today, man. And I know for sure I've been through my fair share of bumps and bruises, but you know what I mean? Though I wouldn't trade those times for anything, you know. It kind of like, it really, really, really made me who I am. And I'm very proud of who I am today because of it, man. We went through a lot of things, man, for sure. But I always maintained and always kind of kept that purpose. And I always kind of kept the back of my mind on developing myself to chase my dreams and be able to do what I need to do to be successful within what I want to achieve. Because, you know, a lot of people attain success to money. But one thing about it is, like, people have to kind of understand you can have success without getting $1. Like, a lot of people don't chase money, they chase happiness. And that's cool. It's cool. People that chase money, nobody's telling you not to chase no money. For all means, chase your bag. You know what I mean? But for a lot of people, it's just about finding that happy place and being happy. And I think that's kind of the point to where I've gotten to. My passions have taken over the sense of wanting to be compensated for it. You know what I mean? I'm willing to take a little bit of a loss at times to start this thing. And it's going to take a while, man. And that's something that I understand. I know I would love for people to be liking my posts and sharing my posts all day. The fact of the matter is, it just doesn't happen that way overnight. It's not that ratio of it happening versus not. It's just don't. You know what I mean? It just don't happen. But at the same time, it's like, what am I going to do? Am I going to sit there and let that depict how hard I'm going to go in doing this? No, I can't do that. I have to continue to, you know what I mean, stay with my passion because it's something that I like, whether you're involved with it, like people are liking it or involved with it or not. I have to maintain, keep doing what I need to do, you know. So this is going to be, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up, man. I just wanted to give you guys this is going to be my first episode, man. So we're going to go from here. It's definitely going to be a lot more. Like I said, we're going to try to do this as often as possible. I don't want to say, you know what I mean, a certain number. We're just going to do it as much as possible. We're going to have guests for sure. We're just going to get some things off, man. We're going to get some things off our chest for real and really try to, you know what I mean, entertain you guys with a good podcast, man. It's your boy DQ, man. The gift is free. It's all about what you're going to do to separate yourself, man. I holla.